Hello, internet. We're gonna do a health update here. A lot of people have asked since I mentioned it kind of offhandedly in a previous video, so let's talk about what we know now. And for those of you who don't want to watch but do want some basic information, the TLDR is that I have an enlarged heart. Now they think I had a heart attack at some point in the last year and did not realize it, and that's the short version, but the rest of the video is the long version, explaining how we got to that diagnosis and what the symptoms were and blah blah, etc. I have no idea what I'm going to put on screen here. I'm currently carving maple longbows in RuneScape, so if you hear me clicking, that's what that is, but I probably won't put that on screen, so it might just be my avatar and you can just listen to me in the background. I don't know. Alright, so let's start with that, I guess, the possible heart attack part. So I always pictured heart attacks as like what you see in the movies, right? A guy feels like his chest exploded or whatever. He clutches his chest, he collapses to the ground, and etc. Well, apparently that's not really how it works. I mean, I guess sometimes that is how it works, but people have them and they think like, oh, I had too much caffeine, or like they're shoveling snow and they get chest pain and they think like, oh man, I really overdid it today, or you have some chest pain and you're like, oh man, that must be a panic attack or whatever. So you might not even notice that you had a heart attack. Now, there were two incidents in the last year that really stand out as possible candidates to me that I may have had a heart attack during those times. Now, the first one was back in like December 2022. I had this really big, important thing that honestly I just don't really want to explain to you. But basically, it was like extremely important and it derailed my life for about a month. I don't remember if we were posting videos in that time or if I took some time off or whatever. And then when the big thing finally happened, my heart was pounding out of control for several hours. Now, I know that's vague as all hell, but I remember actually having the thought, like I could feel my heartbeat for hours, and I thought, man, am I having a heart attack here? What is going on? But it did eventually fade, and like I was able to sleep again, so I just didn't think much of it. I just moved on with my life as best I could. However, for a while after that, my heart felt kind of funny and fluttery, and I just didn't really know what to do, and then it went away and I didn't think about it anymore. And then the other incident was, I don't know, like March, April, May, something like that, a couple months ago. And basically one day I just had these really severe heart palpitations. I would take my pulse and I could actually feel that my heart stopped beating. And then like a second or two later, it would kick really hard and start beating again. And it was the kick of it that, of it restarting my heart, that was really unpleasant. I had some chest pain and it was kind of pretty scary. Now at the time, I had made a big jug of coffee that day, and I drank a lot of it throughout the day. Now it was decaf, or I thought it was decaf, but then I thought like, well, maybe you mixed up the canisters, maybe this is like a caffeine overdose. I didn't know what to think. And I remember talking about that on Discord when it happened, and of course I mentioned it in my therapy. I mentioned it to my family members because my heart was like, I had these really severe palpitations. I felt like I couldn't sleep, but I didn't know, should I go to the hospital? Should I not go to the hospital? And everything I saw online about palpitations said, like, usually when you have a bunch of caffeine or if you do a bunch of cocaine, you take too much of those things and then you have palpitations. And I remember it said online that palpitations are very rarely a sign of underlying health issues. Almost everyone who gets them, it's because of caffeine or cocaine. And of course now I know that I do actually have an underlying condition, and that might have been like a big old warning sign that something bad was happening to my body. Anyway, for like a week after that incident, my heart felt really weird. I kept having erratic heartbeats. My heart felt sort of strange and fluttering, and like I knew something was wrong. And even when it started to go away, I noticed that I was kind of dizzy a lot of times for no obvious reason. It felt really strange. It wasn't like super scary. It wasn't like, oh man, you should go to the hospital right now. It was just strange, and it just kind of was unpleasant, and I wasn't even sure that it was all connected necessarily. I was just like, oh, maybe I didn't eat enough today, so I'm feeling a little dizzy. And so once again, my body was telling me like, hey man, something is going on here, but honestly, I just ignored it. I was hoping to avoid a hospital visit, and I had a doctor's appointment like a couple months after that, so I thought, you could just put it off until you see your doctor. And well, that's when the really bad stuff started happening, and it's just super obvious that something was wrong with me. I was laying down, I was going to bed, same as, any other day, and I was starting to drift off to sleep. Not really like like asleep yet, just you're sort of nodding off kind of in between sleep and being awake. And suddenly I got this really, really severe chest pain. Now I struggled a bit to explain to people what it felt like, but it kind of felt like all the bones in my chest had suddenly caved in, or like they flipped around the wrong way and they were crushing all my organs. Like it just felt like honestly, like the worst pain I've ever experienced in my entire life. And I say that as someone who's had like kidney stones and messed up my shoulder and knee and all kinds of stuff in my life, but this was way worse than all of that. Now, of course, when I got this severe pain, I immediately shot up, like just terrified. I took a deep breath and sat up. I started to jump out of bed because like I thought I might be having a heart attack, and my family was like downstairs, and I had this like intense fear that like, oh, I have to get downstairs right now. What if I collapse and my family wouldn't even know because I'm in my room? They would have no idea I died. But anyway, as soon as I jumped up and took a deep breath, the pain was gone, just completely gone. Now I checked my pulse and my heart was, it seemed like it was beating okay, and I took a few breaths and I could breathe okay, so I didn't really know what to make of this. So I laid back down, and as pretty much as soon as I started drifting off, it happened again, so I jumped up again out of bed. Now unfortunately, no one was home at the time. Like I sleep during the day because I work at night, so like my family was just out and about, running errands or whatever. And I'm not married, by the way. I think sometimes I say my family and people think like I mean a wife, but like no, they're just, I live with family because I'm poor and like borderline non-functional as a human being because of mental illness. But anyway, so like, I didn't know what to do. Like I could call them and say, hey, come home. I think I'm having a heart attack, I guess. But the pain went away as soon as I sat up. So I just sat at my computer for a little while. I didn't really know what to do. And then I fell asleep again. And I was very tired, and I just eventually fell asleep. Now the problem was that it happened again the next day, and the next day, and the next day. Every time I lay down to sleep, I started drifting off, and then bam, it's like the worst chest pain I've ever felt in my life. Now at this point, I had a doctor's appointment like 2 or 3 weeks after that started, and it went away every time I stood up. So I thought like, well, what would they even do if I went to the hospital? Like they're just going to be like, well, it looks normal right now, go on home. Now in hindsight, and for anyone watching this with similar issues, 100% I should have gone to the hospital. I just live in the hellscape that is America, where we don't believe people deserve health care. So like I would have paid thousands of dollars for them just to send me home again. I don't know, maybe they could have diagnosed something, but very likely they would have been like, well, your heart's beating, you don't appear to be dying, so just here you go. Anyway, while I waited for my doctor's appointment, I did do a bunch of Googling, like just to find out. Like I saw a lot of people reporting chest pains while they slept, and a lot of them said like it's connected to lying flat. So like there was a lady saying like, oh, my husband has heart issues and he has to sleep in an armchair because sleeping sitting up alleviates his chest pain. And now I know, of course, I have an enlarged heart, and I know the symptoms of that include like trouble breathing, chest pain, swollen legs, things like that, and they most frequently occur when you're lying flat. And in fact, it says a lot online like, hey, that's when you're at the greatest risk of a heart attack, is when you're laying flat and trying to go to sleep. I guess circulation changes, or maybe because you're falling asleep, your heart slows down. I'm not really sure. But anyway, that's what I did. I don't have a recliner, but I stacked about 1 million blankets and pillows on my bed over there, and yeah, I tried sleeping upright, and that didn't really work either. Number one, it's super uncomfortable, and I have a lot of trouble breathing when I'm sitting in that position. My leg also was weirdly swollen and would go numb whenever I tried to sleep sitting up. And of course, as I said, for the record, like now I know all of those are actually symptoms of an enlarged heart. Chest pain, serious breathing, swelling in the legs, those are like the most common symptoms. So yeah, I was just waiting for my doctor's appointment, and it was pretty brutal to wait and not know what was going on with me. During that time, I was sleeping like maybe 3 hours a night, and my chest pain came and went. Sometimes during the day, there was just like this background chest pain like all the time, and I didn't know what to do about it. And I mean, there still is, like I still randomly have chest pain during the day. As I'm recording this audio, I don't, but I remember when I was writing the script, script, I did have chest pain at that time. I also randomly get dizzy, like seemingly just out of nowhere, and I just generally have been having a really bad time with all of this stuff. Anyway, finally I saw my doctor, and of course we spent like an hour talking about all of my chest pain, all my symptoms, and what she thought might be going on. She ordered blood work, chest x-rays, a stress test, and an ultrasound. And while I was in the office that day, she also of course listened to my heart. She did blood pressure, and she did just in their office they did an EKG. And basically that's a really easy, straightforward thing. They put like stickers on your chest like in a bunch of places, and then there was one on each ankle. They hook it up to a machine and it shows information about your heart. I didn't actually get to see the machine or like what it prints out or whatever, so I don't actually know 100% what they were looking at, but you can Google it. I mean, I don't know personally. But anyway, she said the EKG looked normal, my blood pressure was good, and like she couldn't notice any issues with my heart. However, she also pointed out literally EKG is like a 10-second test, so it obviously doesn't tell you as much as like an ultrasound or a stress test would show you. And then the following day I had these really bad chest pains because like hooray, why wouldn't I have bad chest pains? So I went immediately to get my blood work and chest x-rays. Now there's really not a lot to explain about that. They were walk-in appointments, like they took very little time. It was no problem at all. About an hour after I did them, I got a call from my doctor to let me know that my blood work that was ordered, it looked normal. And then like an hour after that, I got a call telling me that my chest x-rays also looked pretty normal. Now the following week I had my stress test, and this one does require a little bit longer explanation, or I'll tell you the story basically. So if you don't know, I guess there's a couple kinds of stress tests, and when I called to make the appointment, they asked me a lot of stuff about like, are you able to walk? Do you need assistance if you were on a treadmill? Stuff like that. And so the one I did was on a treadmill. There is another kind. My grandmother had said that she got one where they basically injected her with something that made her heart like beat really fast, and that's how they did it. And they told me like, hey, don't have caffeine for 12 hours ahead of the appointment, don't eat too much before, blah blah, etc. And the problem is that they only do these tests from like 6 to 9 a.m. and fun fact, I don't even get home from work sometimes until 8 a.m. so that was just a huge problem for me. And it's really messed up, by the way, that the world refuses to accommodate people who work at night. Just by the way, that thing, it's actually like offensive sometimes. So like I called to schedule my stress test and the ultrasound, and she was like, oh, well, you can do them the same day. And I was like, great, I only have to make one trip out there. And she said, yeah, but we only do stress tests from like 6 to 9 a.m. and we only do ultrasounds in the afternoon. And so she wanted me to come there and sit there for 5 hours waiting between my appointments, which is fucking ludicrous. I told them I don't get home until 8 a.m. and they're like, well, the latest we can schedule you is 9. And I just think that's a load of crap. You should make accommodate. Why does the world not in some way accommodate people who work at night? Why can't you be like, oh yeah, okay, well for you, we can actually make an exception because we have some infrastructure in place to support people who work at night. Because like also they want me to do a sleep study in case I have apnea. That was one of the things they talked about, but they literally only do them at night. Well, I work at night, so in order to do a sleep study, I would have to completely uproot my entire life for like a week in preparation to sleep at night, and then I'd have to call off work. It would be a huge problem. Why would you not do sleep studies during the day as well? There's a huge population of the planet that don't work during the day and have normal jobs. Like, okay, anyway, rant over. Anyway, I go to this appointment and I walk in the room. It's basically like a big rectangle. There's a curtain down the middle, kind of separating it into two spaces. And on the right-hand side, there's literally like 6 people standing around talking about their barbecue or some bullshit while I'm preparing to take a heart test. And they take me on the left side, they close the curtain, and they have me pop off my shirt. But the whole time I could hear these people talking about, oh yeah, we went to that barbecue and burr. And this is a great time to mention that the technician was like, I don't know, 35 or 40 maybe, around my age, and very attractive. So the pretty lady got to see the sad sight of me without a shirt on, and that made me very uncomfortable. Anyway, they give me another EKG first. They have me lay down, they hook up the sensors and etc. And they also took my blood pressure like 6 times during this appointment at different times, kind of before and after. and all that stuff. But anyway, after the EKG, they hook up my chest and they put this like belt thing around my gut to keep me from, I guess, stepping on the cables as I'm on a treadmill. I hop on the treadmill and she tells me that basically different ages have different target heart rates. And if I recall correctly, she said the goal for me was to get up to 155 and stay there for a while. So basically, I was supposed to walk on the treadmill until I hit that number and then just try to keep going as much as possible and until, I had to end the test and they had hopefully good readings. Now, every 3 minutes, the treadmill would get faster and it would get steeper. It was set up to go up an incline. And I could see the big monitor that she was watching, so I was able to see my heartbeat and stuff during the test as I was taking it. And in the upper left, it would say like my heart rate, and it had the big, like in the middle, it was like the heart monitor, like blip, blip, blip thing in the middle, and then on the right side it looked like a bunch of my blips all on top of each other so you could see them all together. I really don't know how to explain it, and obviously I'm not a technician, so I have, I don't know what all is on the screen there. But yeah, I started walking and oh boy, did that thing start out a lot faster than I was expecting. After about 3 minutes, she said, hey, it's about to get faster and it's going to be more of an incline. So long story short, I'm out of shape and I have breathing problems. So when she got around to the next incline, she was like, can you keep going or should I stop it? And I was like, yeah, no, let's stop because I feel like I'm dying. Now my heart rate was up around 160 for a few minutes, so they got the data that they needed. But yeah, I was very embarrassed. I only was able to walk for 6 minutes, but I'm like 35 and I feel very embarrassed that was the result. And anyway, they don't let you leave the appointment until your heart rate's back to normal. They don't want someone collapsing in the parking lot or whatever. So they had me sit down and they checked my blood pressure several more times until my breathing regulated and I was back down to 87 or 90 beats per minute or whatever. And then they turned me loose to drive home on my wobbly legs. And yeah, I'm out of shape. What can you do? Now, they called me a few hours later to let me know that my heartbeat seemed regular and strong throughout the appointment. They didn't notice anything out of the ordinary. They said it was a normal test. So now at this point, every test we'd done had come back normal. All the EKGs, all the blood pressure, the blood work, the x-rays, everything had, listening to my heart, everything was normal. And I was starting to get a little worried that I wasn't going to get a diagnosis. I was worried I would do all these tests and they would say, yeah, all of them are normal. And then we would have no idea how to move forward. And in a way, it's good, right? Being normal is good. It would say you're not going to drop dead. Maybe it's not a heart issue. Maybe it's digestive. Maybe it's your pancreas, maybe it's something else. But it also didn't tell me what was going on, which meant we had no idea how to fix my horrifying chest pain. And then, alas, came the ultrasound. And if you've never had one, it's exactly what you think it is. We've all seen a movie or whatever where they do an ultrasound for a baby. And basically they have a wand thing and they put gel on it and they jam it up in your ribs so they can look at your heart. Now they did 4 positions. One sort of was flat on my chest, pointed at my heart. One was on the left side ribs, one at my solar plexus, and then they did one kind of up at my throat. And it's all the same ultrasound. They're just moving positions and taking pictures. And when she was doing the ultrasound, the technician took probably 10,000 pictures. I could hear her pressing a single button on the keyboard, it sounded like over and over, and I got to figure it was to take a still image. Now I don't actually know what ultrasounds are usually like, but it made me very nervous at how many pictures she was taking. And the test actually took quite a while despite how easy it sounds. So she might have taken 30 pictures for each of the angles, which I don't know if that's normal or not, but it did make me pretty nervous. And when it was over, I asked her if she found any fetuses in there and didn't even get a chuckle out of her, which bummed me out because I thought that was pretty funny. Anyway, I went home, I went about my day and blah, blah, blah. The next day, I had a gastroenterology appointment. That's a whole thing on its own. They want me to do a colonoscopy and an endoscopy and stool samples and blood work and everything. And I'm about to lose my insurance, so fuck me, I guess I'm not getting any of that stuff done. Anyway, they called me the following day with the results of the ultrasound, and when I called them back, the receptionist did not tell me my results. So for every other test, like the blood work, the x-rays, when I would call the receptionist, she would look me up and she would just say, oh yeah, all your tests are fine, no problem, we just wanted to let you know. But this time I called about the ultrasound and she looked me up and was quiet for a few seconds, and then she said, let me get one of the healthcare providers to talk to you. And I knew right away, of course, something was wrong. Every other time they told me right away, this time she's getting a doctor. That obviously that means something. So she put me on hold, and when a doctor finally came on, they just directly told me, like, hey, you have an enlarged heart. It was seen on your ultrasound. And they said I would need to meet with a cardiologist basically as soon as I could get it scheduled, and it would be explained to me in greater detail and like what we do now, what could be the underlying condition, etc. And she did really stress, like, hey, you just had a stress test. Your heartbeat seems strong and regular. So like she really hammered home, like, hey, you do have an enlarged heart, but your heart seems pretty okay despite that. And yeah, she didn't explain a whole lot to me, just that this is a very common effect after having a heart attack. And based on what we had talked about with the palpitations and stress and stuff like that, that I probably had a heart attack and just didn't realize it. Now, the severity of my issue is to be determined. I meet with the cardiologist at the end of the month to discuss all of that. Now, if you don't know much about enlarged hearts, well, frankly, neither do I. And I had heard of it, of course, but I didn't know up until a week ago really what it meant. Now, I've been trying not to go too deep down the rabbit hole online because, like, I don't want to freak the fuck out. But of course, I did look some stuff up. I would rather hear most of this from a cardiologist. But yeah, an enlarged heart is basically exactly what it sounds. My heart is big. This could be the wall thickening up. It could be swelling from. It could be a lot of things actually. Now, this can be because of damage from something like a heart attack, or it could be some disease like heart disease, or it could be because of genetics, or fluid building up around the heart, or I could have a leak in my heart valve, or I could have just a general swollen heart because I'm fat or something. And this is the part that I don't know. The underlying cause is the thing that will be determined how we move forward. Is it heart disease, genetics, heart attack, etc.? And for some people it does go away. And like, I guess pregnant ladies can get it a lot of the time, and then after they have the baby and their body gets rid of the stress of pregnancy, it goes back to normal. Some people, medication take care of it and it's really not a big deal. But then for everyone else, if you Google it, there's like 6 different surgeries associated with the condition, like 6 different heart surgeries. And then some people, it's so bad that they require a full-on heart transplant or they're gonna die. So this could turn out to be something where I take pills for a little while and it goes back to normal, or it could literally be the thing that kills me. And until I meet with that cardiologist, I have no idea. Now, all I can do right now is the stuff that they told me to do. So I don't drink too much caffeine, don't snort any cocaine, which I don't do drugs anyway. I have to quit smoking, which I had already started quitting prior to this because I'd been having chest pain and just the palpitations and stuff. I cut caffeine and tobacco pretty significantly. Quitting smoking has been a little difficult. I smoke 5 cigarettes less today than I did, 2 weeks ago or whatever. It's been really hard to cut back. I feel so stressed out without my cigarettes. I never thought like everyone thinks oh, I could quit anytime I want. And then when you're faced with quitting, I'm I'm on my last cigarette and I'm like, I should go buy cigarettes. I need to buy cigarettes. And it's just nagging in the back of your head. Even if you're not smoking, if you put it off for several hours to smoke a cigarette, you're still like, I need more, I should have more, because it's comforting to have a pack and know that they're there. But anyway, exercising every day, but obviously don't exercise too hard, avoid heavy lifting and exertion, but they want me to exercise every day. So I don't really know what I'm going to do this winter when the snow comes, because I won't be able to shovel. And we have a snowblower, but I sometimes at I go to work at midnight, I need to go dig my car out. I don't know how I'm going to do that. And of course, they said to avoid stress, which literally no one can avoid stress. What a stupid thing to say. Stress is everywhere. The universe is a horrible bitch. I can't avoid stress. I'm stressed all the time. But anyway, yes. So I don't have answers yet. All I know, I have an enlarged heart. My heart's kind of messed up. That is the cause of my chest pain, most likely the cause of my breathing problems, most likely the cause of why my leg has been numb and swollen, is all that is related to the heart. I don't even know how messed up I am. Like I said, a year from now, I could be completely fine and on medication, or I could require monitoring for the rest of my life, or I could be heading straight for heart failure. I have absolutely no idea yet. Now, on the plus side, some of the things you normally do after you get diagnosed with an enlarged heart, I've already done them. So like, let's say that they found my enlarged heart on an x-ray. Well, the first thing they would have done is set me up for an ultrasound and a stress test, which of course I just did both of those. Now there are lots of other tests that I'm sure they'll want to do. They're going to want more specific blood work, and they're probably going to send me off for like an MRI or maybe not an MRI, some kind of scan basically, so they can get a better picture of my heart. I don't know what the different PET scans, MRIs, all that stuff, I don't know the difference. So there's a lot of tests I'm sure they're going to want to do, but at least I knocked out a few of them. And I know I already mentioned this, but like, I'm about to lose my insurance literally like 2 or 3 days after this video goes up. And because I live in the capitalist hellscape that is the United States, like I said, my country doesn't believe that people should receive health care unless they're wealthy. And so for all I know, being poor is actually going to kill me, because I don't know if I can afford to get a bunch of medical stuff done. And my current plan, by the way, is just to do everything they ask me to and accumulate a bunch of medical debt and then die in poverty just like my ancestors did. But anyway, I'm writing this script at like 6 a.m. on my day off, so I'm getting ready to go to bed here. So I'm tired of writing, which, by the way, that's the me who wrote this script, not the me who's recording the audio. It's currently 7:30 p.m. I have a full day ahead of me yet. This is all that I know for now. When I meet the cardiologist, I'll know more, but really there's just a lot more tests in my future for us to determine what caused this in the first place. This is what I've been dealing with for several weeks straight, all these appointments and tests, and just, it's been really stressful, and I have not been sleeping well because they're scheduling me these appointments at different times during the day when I have to get up like 4 hours ahead of schedule or go to bed like 4 hours later than I normally would to accommodate them. And it's been hard. It's just not, I'm just so tired all the time. I'm really tired all the time. My desire to do YouTube stuff has been basically at a zero. Like most days I just want to sit here and space out and watch movies or whatever. On that note, I watched Elemental, by the way. It's the most recent Pixar movie. I think it lacked a lot of the charm of their other movies, but it was overall pretty good. And on a more grown-up movie note, I recently watched Pearl, which is the sequel to X, and I thought that was truly horrendous. Making something super stylized does not equate to the movie being good. That movie just missed the mark by a mile. Hated it. Terrible. Don't watch Pearl. It's a bad movie. But anyway, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to bed now. Not me who's recording the audio, but the idiot who wrote this script and was very rambly at the end here, apparently. I'll keep you posted, of course, as things move forward. But yeah, that's where I am now. I don't know enough information. That is what probably the next couple months of my life are going to be. Just a lot of testing, a lot of discussion, and just trying to pin down, was it a heart attack? Is it genetics? Do I have heart disease? Like, is there a valve deficiency of some kind? Is it like my heart just is going to burst or something? I don't know. I'll keep you posted as we move forward. Thank you for watching. Everyone, thank you for the support. People have been just super kind with this, and I'll be back to make more content eventually. I don't know what I'm going to do. Thank you for listening to me ramble and get this off my chest. I haven't had therapy in a few weeks either because I've had all these appointments, so I had to cancel therapy a couple times to make these really important doctor's appointments. I do have therapy this coming Wednesday, which is like the 24th or something like that. So I will be able to talk about these things with actual professionals who know how to deal with the emotional stress of me experiencing these things. But for now, it was just nice to talk about it, get it off my chest a little bit, and let people know why my channel sucks right now. So yeah, but yeah, end the video. Everyone, thank you for watching. Goodbye. Have a good day.